When I think Mercedes S-Class, I think luxury, relax, innovation, technological advancement, safety, but beauty? Hi guys, Eric here and welcome back to my channel. Today I will be looking at a 2006 W221 Mercedes-Benz S350. The W221 is my personal favorite S-Class when it comes to its looks. Those beautiful rear haunches and those 18-inch wheels that fit the extended wheel arches perfectly. It is gorgeous, although it hasn't always been this way. W140. The S-Class's lineage is vast, so just a quick background. The S in S-Class translates to special class and is the name given to Mercedes' flagship sedan. It was officially introduced in 1972 with the W116, but roots of this icon can be traced back to 1954 with the W180 Ponton. Interestingly, only those with the 6- and 8-cylinder engines were considered ancestors to the modern S-Class, as the Ponton's 4-cylinder engines lack the necessary power. Replacing the W180 and its update, the W128, was the W221, or Fintail as it was endearingly named, from 1959 to 1969. Fintail being used because of the American-esque fins extending from both rear light clusters. Next up, in 1965, while the W112 was still in production, Mercedes released the W108 until 1972. The W116, the first official S-Class released in 1972, was one of the first cars to be fitted with a driver's airbag, being narrowly beaten by General Motors. In 1978, however, Mercedes-Benz innovated anti-lock brakes along with Bosch for the W116. The W126 that followed in 1980 was the first production car that was released with seatbelt pretensioners as well as traction control, systems that still save lives to this day. Mercedes had a well-deserved reputation for over-engineering cars, and that culminated to the swan song that was the W140. Built like a tank and looking like one, it came with a host of new features and new drivetrains to the S-Class's name, including but not limited to double glazing, soft closed doors, a new V12 engine to stay competitive with BMW 7 Series as well as Jaguar's XJ, and most importantly, electronic stability programs. One of the best nanny systems, especially when it can be turned off properly, fitted to cars today. All of this wrapped up in an unneat, massive package designed in the dark ages. Not wanting to expand on this now, Mercedes decided that their cars are over-engineered and that they can save money by cutting certain corners. And it showed. The W220, released in 1998, although gorgeous and sleek, suffered from reliability issues, especially the pre-facelift cars. And the interior quality was subpar, at least for an S-Class. I owned a 2002 W220 S350 CDI. It was super powerful, but dear, oh dear, it was dear to maintain. It still sold well, my guess being that it was beautiful by way of its simplistic design, and despite being smaller than its predecessor, bigger on the inside. It was also available with air suspension, radar-guided cruise control, and cylinder deactivation on its V8 models. It seems as though Mercedes-Benz recognized the error in their ways, because the W221's design is achingly beautiful. The first time I laid eyes on it, I was 13 and I saw Miranda Priestley get into one while watching The Devil Wears Prada. I immediately fell in love with the S-Class and with Meryl Streep. But let's leave that for another video. For now, let's take a closer look to this S-Class. The W221 was designed by Gordon Wagner in 2001, the same man who designed the SLR McLaren. It was produced from August 2005 to June 2013. Where the W220 was smaller than its predecessor, the W221 was bigger in all dimensions. It was made available with a huge line of engines consisting of V6, V8 and V12 petrol mills from 170 to 450 kilowatt, as well as straight 4 V6 and V8 diesels from 500 to 730 Newton meters of torque. It was also available in a mild hybrid system, the first hybrid that used lithium-ion batteries. The straight 4 V6 and V8 engines, petrol as well as diesel, were mated to Mercedes' own 7-speed 7G-tronic transmissions, while the V12s were mated to a 5-speed 5G-tronic. Its curb weight ranged from 1,995 to 2,270 kilograms. It was also clever, with new innovations consisting of night vision, an infrared camera feed fed to the digital driver's display, radar-guided cruise control that can bring a car to a complete stop, 8 airbags, brake assist, active body control, and Parktronic that will park the car for you whether parallel or perpendicular. It was also available with a rear-view camera, electric rear seats, and voice recognition or Linguatronic. These trademarks, not making it up. The interior received a much-needed and deserved update. Most plastic switches were replaced with real metal, and if it looked like leather, metal, or wood, it most likely was. In my opinion, this is where the interior renaissance started. Before, people were more than happy with vinyl wood, silver-painted plastics, and knobs you can pull out. As soon as you close these soft closed doors, every single sense is triggered. The wood, the leather, the metal, this beautiful curve on this dashboard, and this thin metal strip below the polished rosewood. What a treat. You really can smell the leather and wood in this car. Unlike certain other cars, for example, my Chrysler 300C. Video review link in the description box below. Oh my gosh, the isolation. When you close these heavy doors, you can practically hear the silence. My favorite part when exploring this wonderfully crafted cabin. The plastics are soft and yielding and of high quality. The metal is cold even when the cabin is boiling hot. The leather is soft and supple. And the subtle dampening of the switchgear just elevate the experience and really explains why the S-Class demands such a high price tag. It's all in the details, you know. Okay, so maybe not every saint, but my point still stands. Sitting proudly in the middle of the dash is Mercedes' 8-inch command infotainment system. It is thanks to this system that the cabin isn't burdened with excess buttons. Instead, you get this dial where your left hand would usually rest. Around it, there are some shortcut buttons for frequently used menus. I really wish BMW's first iDrive had this. I love using this dial. It's made of solid metal and there's a lovely dampness to its operation. I definitely prefer this to a touchscreen. Navigating the menus are also quite easy, even by today's standards. This is a 15-year-old car, so don't expect much in the way of connectivity. Bluetooth was optional, there was no USB port, no memory card reader, no auxiliary input. You do have a slot for a compact flash, whatever that is. One of my favorite parts of this infotainment system, however, is the vintage radio slider. It is so cool. For added usability, there's also a button that can swivel the screen either to the passenger or the driver. What a great idea! Behind the steering wheel, you get a temperature gauge, you get a fuel gauge, you get a rev counter, and you get a speedometer. But this speedometer is actually part of a full-color customizable display. It's not nearly as customizable as the digital dials of cars today, but it's still very interesting and helpful. You also had an option of a 600-watt Harman Kardon sound system, but I must admit the standard system will be more than enough for most people. Storage is good, if not great. The glove box is a decent size, the door pockets are usable, and there are cute compartments underneath the door's armrest. The center armrest also houses a wide, if shallow, compartment that is hinged on both sides, so both passenger and driver have access to it. Practicality, however, is great, especially if you're a rear passenger. Even though this is the standard wheelbase model, rear leg and headroom is more than enough. The seat bases are also lifted slightly for extra lower thigh support. Rear passengers also have access to their very own vanity mirrors that pop down from the headliner, and their very own rear sunshade. Then they have access to their very own center armrest that houses 2 cup holders as well as another shallow storage space. Yes, it is very good to be a passenger in the S-Class. The boot is also decent size, but sadly the rear seats can't fold down for a continuous loading bay. In all fairness, very few full-size luxury sedans offer this amazing feature. It really is an experience to sit inside of an S-Class. I imagine it being like flying business class for the first time after years of flying economy. Only here, you get to own this luxury. Also, S-Classes can't fly, but they can drive, so let's get to it. If I had to sum up driving the Mercedes S-Class in one word, that word would be relaxing. This must be the most insulated cabin I've ever been in. There's a real sense of isolation when driving this car. The only noises you hear are soft creaks coming from around the cabin. It's not unpleasant by any means. Quite soothing, really. Reminds me of being on a ship. Comfort is exemplary. The 7G-tronic torque converter is amazingly smooth. You don't notice it changing cogs at all. The standard fit air suspension also does a fantastic job of ironing out imperfections in the road. It's not foolproof though, especially at lower speeds. It can get caught out on rough surfaces. On the motorway, and the S-Class is in a league of its own. The suspension is in full swing, and wow, I really have baseball on my mind today. The 3.5 litre naturally aspirated V6 produces 200 kilowatts, which is enough to propel this 2-ton car from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 7.3 seconds. It also produces 350 Newton meters of torque, which is more than enough to overtake on highway speeds. Yet, this engine ticks over at 1,750 RPM at our national speed limit. Wind, tire and road noise is also at a minimum. This car will eat up mile after mile after mile and you will barely notice it. The only criticism I have when driving this car over long distances is that when I reach my destination, I have a slight backache. I think it has to do with the lumbar support that I just can't get it at the right setting. It always feels as though it is pushing my back outwards. Out on the twisties, however, and one thing becomes very clear. This car is no driver's car. The steering is absolutely lifeless, no feedback at all. It is never disconcerting though. The 7G-tronic, although very smooth, really hates being rushed. And there's slight body roll when you go into the corners. Also, these standard seats provide little to no support at all when you chuck this thing into corners or change direction quickly. It is by no means a Jaguar XJ or even an Audi A8. But I'm not complaining though. This car was never meant to be anything but a luxurious, relaxing, comfortable, safe, technologically advanced car designed for people who are interested in exactly that and nothing more. And I applaud Mercedes-Benz for that. This car has no compromises, and I think that's why it is the best-selling full-size luxury car in the world. It isn't trying to be something it isn't, and we all can learn something from that alone. Thank you so much for watching another video. If you like it, please like this video, and if you haven't, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I really enjoy making these, so stay tuned. Until next time, bye.